So I was so chuffed because I was, I'm a manager and, get me, I've gone in a management. And you got given, and when I look back, fairly hideous, but in those days, it was a brown suit and that denoted that you were a manager and you had a badge with your name on. And the rest of the staff had it was like an orange and brown. It was a bit 70s, but anyway, they've moved on now. But it was like a tabard that you wore as a staff member, and the managers had, and that denoted you as a person in charge. And I went in first day, and my manager said to me, "Well, you can take off that uniform and put on this tabard because you aren't a manager yet, love." And that's
no. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast Chatzzz. And we have a very, very special guest today, and I'm scared that I'm going to get embarrassed. You probably know me the longest out of anybody on this podcast by a long way.
You've grown.
Nah. Kay, very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's lovely to be here.
I know.
It's lovely to have you here in the Pink Palace. So
I know, it's so cool. Because for anybody that doesn't know, basically, Kay is the mum of Henry Berry, and we did a podcast, didn't we?
Yeah.
Ages ago now, I think, with Henry. And I messaged Henry and said, Henry, I need some guest ideas. Who should we have on? He says, my mum. And I said, that's a great idea.
That's nice, isn't it? That's nice. Good boy. Well done. Yeah.
And when do you reckon we saw each other before we went for food that time?
Goodness, it was a long time ago.
It's been nearly 10 years, hasn't it?
Should we do the embarrassing bit now? You know, you didn't have short trousers on, so that was okay. But no, it was 10 years. It's going to have to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
At least, I think so. And I can't believe, time has just flown, hasn't it? It's like it was yesterday. We just picked up and, hi, how are you doing? What have you been doing for 10 years? Bit of catch up, and then we're here again, aren't we? So it's lovely. Yeah, it's nice.
That is cool. So, what I'm going to need you to do is introduce yourself to the viewers and the listeners. Mm-hmm. If you're meeting someone for the first time, how would you do that?
Hello, my name is Kay Berry. I am obviously mother to Henry Berry, and I have known Adam for quite some time, but I won't use that against him.
Yeah.
And I'm currently involved in a business called Bright Beautiful, but I have been involved in lots of other things, and I'm sure we'll get into that as we go on. So serial entrepreneur, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I agree with that. So I prepped you for the podcast, didn't I? The 3 facts.
Yes.
What are the 3 facts? Let's go for the first one.
Okay, the first one is, and I'm clutching my fountain pen here to demonstrate, I am a bit old school and I use a fountain pen, and I always have done to write anything, because I think it stems back from as a kid. I went to quite a proper school, I would call it now. I think standards have slipped, but I went to quite a proper school, and they taught you how to write properly, and it was always in fountain pen. And I can remember as a kid, I was always covered in ink, and then nothing has changed really. I've probably got ink on me now, but it's always stuck with me how to form your letters. And I'm very grammatically correct. So things have to be proper for me. Punctuation is key. I mean, we're talking about Henry, but he used to get into this whole text talk, and how the young people do the texting, and it's all abbreviated and it's nonsense. And I wouldn't reply to him unless he punctuated it, had a full stop, capital letter, and a comma. So it was irritating, but I'm very proper about things. And I just think the old fashioned, and this is one of my prized possessions actually, so I bought it to prompt myself. But I love that whole calligraphy thing, and I love how things, and I'm a big journal maker. I take a lot of notes. If I'm in a meeting, this is unusual for me not to have a notepad, but I thought as I'm talking, it's probably not proper. But if anybody else is speaking, I was at a meeting yesterday and I made 10, 15 pages of notes. I do a lot of squiggles and things, but it's just something that I do. And I think because I'm quite visual, I like it. I like when I've seen it written down on the page, I remember it, and it's a good prompt for me. And I like positive quotes and things like that. So I sort of keep them, and I keep them in my journal, and I just make notes about absolutely everything. So it's probably very irritating, but it just, for me, it's something that I've always done. So I think that's one of the sort of interesting facts, I guess, about me, or irritating, depending on which way you look at it.
It's interesting, but I think there is something different about writing it down on a piece of paper, isn't it, than typing it out. You do remember it more.
I think certainly for me, and I like to kind of formulate ideas. There's a lot of squiggles and arrows and things like that. If you looked at my notes, you wouldn't probably make head nor tail of it. But it's just, if I see it on the written page, or if I'm formulating an idea, you do mind mapping and all that kind of thing, and it looks a lot like that. But I like the feel of the pen. I like it's almost like a comfort, I guess, where you just sort of, you're using your fountain pen, and it's just something that has stuck with me forever and ever. So it is one of my most prized possessions, but it goes with me everywhere. So bit quirky. Yeah. I do use biros. I'm not completely against them.
The biros.
Yeah. The biros, yeah. I get loads. I like a free pen as well. So, so when you get a swag bag, and we've got a swag bag, I got 3 free pens yesterday. So
they fountains or
they
biros?
weren't fountain pens. I was disappointed, but it's not for everybody.
Fountain pens or free pens.
Yeah. And woe betide anybody that writes, when somebody says, can I borrow your pen? And it's a no from me, because to me, the nib is very much, it's my nib for my pen, and it kind of adapts itself to your handwriting. So if somebody else uses it, it actually changes your writing. So I'm really particular. So it is like, you just don't touch it. That's it. It's mine.
That is quite interesting. Yes. I suppose people might know that already if they've been in meetings with you.
Well, and I think in this is a particularly beautiful pen. It's a Mont Blanc, and which is quite posh and quite expensive. But I think you can see people. I like it. I migrate to the people that have got a posh pen. I'll be honest with you.
You've been moving away from me.
Yes, those are the biro, and if it's chewed at the end, it's not going to happen for me. But I appreciate people. People all have their quirks, don't they? But I quite like it, and I'm quite old school. I am a bit eccentric at times, and this is probably one of my eccentricities. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that's the first one.
Second one.
The second one is, and you probably won't know this about me unless you are out on a night out or the circumstances lend themselves, I absolutely love doing a bit of karaoke Dolly Parton.
Really? Yes. Are we going to get a little sneak
No, and I'm prepared for that question, and the answer is no. That's definitely not going to happen. When I say the circumstances have to be right, there's usually alcohol involved, so that'll leave it. No, it's just tea. I promise you, it's just tea. But yeah, I have sung internationally, Dolly 9 to 5, all over the place. I've been in ski resorts, I've been in hot places, and I don't need a lot of encouragement. In fact, I probably don't even need the alcohol, really. I was at a friend's house the other day, and up I got and just sang. But everybody, then Dolly, what's not to like? And actually, as a person, it's not just about a sing-song. I do like a sing-song. I love a bit of karaoke. And I think somewhere inside me, there's probably a frustrated diva waiting to get out. Not even waiting, she's out probably sometimes. But, one of the things that I suppose I would love to have had the gift of would be to sing, really sing, like, Celine Dion type of thing, and be in Vegas and have a sort of stint there and do all of that. So, yeah. And I think the frustration is I just torture people with my 9 to 5. But it's as a person, she's very inspirational. If you start to dig deeper than the persona that is Dolly, she's actually very inspirational. And interestingly, when I first joined Bright Beautiful and went to the head office, and, I'm sort of like, where am I going? What am I doing? Went through the door, looked to the left, and I've got Marilyn Monroe in my office, but there's a huge Dolly Parton picture. And I thought, I've just come home. This is great. So sometimes she sends a sign to me from the universe saying, this way. But she's wise, and she's funny, and she's kind and good, and she stands up for herself, and she's a brilliant ambassador for women and, kids, and she has a foundation that provides books in schools and things like that. So it is a bit frivolous, but I think it's a nod to say, yeah, well done, lady, you're brilliant. So yeah, that's and that's all I can say on that subject. And no, I'm not singing. You wouldn't want that. That would not help you at all. Yeah.
Next fact then.
So the next fact is not quite so odd. It's, I guess, my love of food, as you can tell. My love of food, good food, cooking, anything that's culinary. I've always been very particular about food prep. I don't really hold with super processed foods or food items. I like to think that, I was a child of sort of grew up in the 70s, and it was either from a box, a tin, or frozen. And that's no disrespect to my mum, who did all the cooking in our house, except when she was poorly, and my dad used to cook, and he used to use all the wrong implements, and she got cross. So she got better quicker because she had to get back in the kitchen. But my mum didn't have a love of food. And so we got fed and we got kept alive, and that was enough, really. But there was no she didn't love doing it. She just did it because she had to keep her children alive. But I think from that, it's kind of made me think, actually, I would want to learn more about it and kind of understand, how do you put food together? What tastes go together? It blew my mind because my mum was, very basic. She absolutely no disrespect to her, but I can remember going to see a friend, and her mum she liked an afternoon drink. That's nothing else to say about that, really. So she rarely cooked because she wasn't able. So she invited me around for supper, and she said, "What do you want to eat?" And I said, "I don't know. What have you got? Have you got a Finder's crispy pancake or something?" Because that's what I'm used to. Fish finger, anything orange. It was in the 70s. Everything was orange and it was coated in breadcrumbs and probably not very good for you. And I can remember it blew my mind because she made from scratch a spaghetti bolognese. Now, I didn't realise that carrots came in another form other than a tin, because that was what we were used to. Peas were from the frozen shelf, and carrots were in a tin. And she made this from scratch, and it absolutely kind of transfixed me, because she just threw it all together, and she's obviously done it a million times. And I just thought, that's what I want to do. So it kind of started very early on. I mean, I would have been about 11 or 12, I guess, at that point. And then I just thought, do you know what? That's what I want to do. So I play around with flavors. I do love baking, actually. I make a mean flapjack, but I play around with flavors, and I do like to experiment and make curries and make different sort of dishes. I've kind of gone, I wouldn't say vegetarian, but I'm kind of more leaning to sort of fish and really pescatarian, I guess, and vegetables and what have you. And it's I mean, it might not interest everybody, but it's quite amazing what you can do, and how much food is changed when it's processed and when it's not in its original form. An aubergine is a beautiful thing, but then if you put it into a ready packed lasagna, it's not, or what have it's not. It doesn't do it for me. So I've always been very particular about that, and I think I've ate out in some fantastic places, and it's just interesting to try and recreate that dish again and just sort of see how flavors go together and what have you. So, and I think I'm very on trend now, because everybody's on this health, aren't they?
Yeah,
and cutting down on red meat and all of that sort of thing. And I've been on this program for years and years. So, and it is, I think it's really important. I mean, there's lots and lots of studies about processed foods and, like super processed food, it's interesting when you go to the high street now and you can think, well, there's a McDonald's, there's a Costa, and I can say that because I'm part of it. But there's always a Greggs. There's a Greggs every 10 yards, isn't there? So and it's kind of like that really younger people, or anybody really that isn't into cooking and fending for themselves, it's too easy to get that overly processed food, and it's really, really not good for you. I mean,
it's
I think
affordable though as well, isn't it?
It is affordable. I mean, what is it, 99p for a McDonald's? It's probably more than that now, but one of the examples. But it's just, and everything in it is processed, and it's not in its natural form. I mean, even bread, to a degree, it's overly processed, and that's not how bread really should be. And it's just, for me, I don't get it, and I don't think it's healthy, and I don't think that we fully understand the impact of overprocessed food. So that's quite a heavy start to my 3 topics, isn't it? I'm getting a bit in depth there, but I do feel quite strongly about, eating the right sort of thing.
I think it's interesting because my friend Yoni, who does all the videos for our business, basically, he's doing like 100 days exercise in a row consecutively, and he's like cutting out processed sugar. Yeah. So he's getting like lots of fruit and that kind of thing, or like healthy options like chicken or salad or whatever it is. And you're saying it's like healthier, but it's way more expensive than, like, say if you go to McDonald's, you can get like a wrap for 99p or £2 and stuff like that. And you think, like, why wouldn't you? If you're conscious of money and that kind of thing, it's weird, isn't it? You spend more money, but you eat better food, but then you're less.
And there's a whole, I mean, we could go on about this for quite some time, for the whole hour, but I think there's a whole, like, levels of society there, isn't there? Because, do you know what? It is about affordability, but that is kind of a conspiracy, basically, because that's what big manufacturers or big companies, or, the McDonald's and the Greggs of this world, that's what they want. They want to suck you in, and it's very addictive, and it's got all sorts of things in it that make it very yummy. And I'm not saying it's not nice, it's great, but if people are living on that because it's cheaper and it's affordable, and then you find sort of, in terms of, like people's affordability, the ones that can't afford things are having by default worse diets because they're not choosing to go, and get the fresh stuff and make stuff at home because it's too expensive or it's too faffy or we haven't got time to do it. And it's just something's wrong. It's out of kilter. And I think in future we need to be very, very conscious about that, because we've got a whole generation now that are just, even just like the basics of like chewing food, there's not a lot of chewing in a burger when you get it from McDonald's. It's a big floppy, horrible thing. And it's kind of, sorry, McDonald's. We're not doing that bit for McDonald's. I will never get it. But, it's not appetizing for me, but it's also, there's not a lot of effort that goes into it. It's easy. And then you eat it and you think, I just want another one and this is the whole kind of conspiracy theory that I'm creating here, because we've lost the ability, I think, to chew food and get nourishment from food. And there's a knock-on effect for dentistry and all that kind of thing. I mean, it's a fascinating topic, but it is, I don't know why I started with that when I was on like Finder's crispy pancakes, and then I've gone full circle. I've shot my own foot off there, haven't I? Yeah. But yeah, I think that's where I get my kind of sort of, I appreciate good food and I love it when it's cooked for me, but I'm quite keen to make sure that what I cook and what I put into my body is really appropriate.
Yeah, and I think it's important. Like this week, I've been away most of the week, and it's like, for me, it's convenience because I'm on the road and traveling, and I've got spots now because I've been eating processed food like McDonald's or going out to food like TGI Fridays, and you feel worse. But when you're at home and if you can have like fruit, vegetables, rice and that kind of thing, you feel so much better within yourself. It's like 10 minutes of satisfaction that I get. Like if I had a McDonald's wrap, that
great,
in 30 seconds. But then after that, you think, I feel a bit rubbish now.
But the knock-on effect to your energy levels and to your concentration, which is it really doesn't make sense. If you're on the road, if you're traveling, it's very difficult to eat a healthy meal or to get a healthy meal. I mean, they might have a token apple on a shelf that's gone a bit wrong. And it just doesn't work for me, because that's it. If you need to be giving yourself good nutrition so that you can concentrate while you're driving or you're on the move or you're on, and it just doesn't make sense to me. But it's really difficult. And I think particularly in the UK, I mean, we talk about America, but in the UK, it's a particular problem, because I think we're following what the American model is, and we're making fast food very available and very affordable, and it's not going to end well. Obesity is a crisis, and I think we're getting into that now. It's just not good.
Definitely. Right. Let's go back to a little kid and growing up.
What the Lord?
Start a conspiracy theory.
I know, I'm already so early in the whole thing. Sorry, that was... Let's make it lighter, shall we? Here's a little girl. Yeah.
So you said when you were 11 and 12. So what did you want to do? What did you want to be? What did you enjoy doing when you grew up? You obviously know what I was like when I was a kid.
I know. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You get to have an insight to me. So I think probably I had a lovely childhood. It was wonderful. It really was. And I'm really thankful for it. I think that's what's grounded me, and that's what sort of made me the person that I am, really. And I had a loving family. I had mum that was always around and there to do whatever we wanted. My dad worked really hard, but he was always the one, wait till your dad gets home. But we didn't have that at all. It was like when dad came home, it was fun, and we enjoyed spending time, and we were well looked after, and it was fairly idyllic, really. But I think, so I had a lovely, my sister was there, and we played in the garden, and it was lovely, and we had a very balanced and stable upbringing, and I'm really thankful for that, because I think it was important. And I think when I got to about 11 or 12, I hadn't really formulated what I wanted to be, but like every little girl, so I was fortunate. I had horses, so I either wanted to be an international show jumper, which, that's quite hard. It's like, I guess with boys, the equivalent is I want to be a footballer. Yeah. So because I was into horses, and I did show jump, and I did have that kind of in a very small way, but it's really costly,
it's
really costly.
Expensive.
I mean, that's like for the really wealthy people to do. And it's also very tying. And I think it's only when you're a parent, and you're not there yet, but you probably heard but it's only when you're a parent, if you have a child that's into sport or anything like that, the commitment from the parents' side is huge. So when you're doing competitions, or, you're riding horses or what have you, there's travel, there's, it's costs, it's all day. I can remember one epic moment when I was doing a pony club. It was just very basic sort of stuff. And it was chiseling down with rain. I mean, it really was. It was absolutely. And my mum was sort of standing on the sidelines, and she's absolutely, shall we go in? No, it's my turn. And shall we go in? And then my horse, Jamie, sort of went, oh, I'm cold. Right, we're going in. The horse is cold. And my mum was like, really? Thanks. So she had hours in the rain. All right, hair was wrong. So, but it was just a lovely, it was idyllic. So I guess I wanted to be an international show jumper. But then as you move on, I went through the usual sort of path of, I'll be a vet, and then I think because I'd saved a rabbit once or something from the clutches of the cat. So that was that, I want to be a vet. And that lasted for quite a while. And then I wanted to marry Simon Le Bon out of Duran Duran. And that's no ambition for a young girl, is it? So I knocked that out of myself. And I think I just went through the whole normal thing. And I don't actually ever think that I I don't even think I know what I want to be now. I know where I want to go and how I want to live, but I can't just say what I want to do. I've sort of fallen into business, but I guess that if you look back, it has been quite structured, but I didn't have a set firm idea. I think by the time I was about 16 or 17, and I didn't have the horses, and I'd sort of discovered boys and things like that. So
distractions.
it changes again. But I think the one thing that I did, and because I'd grown up in a family that was very hardworking, my dad's really hardworking and still is now to this day, you know, even at his age, he's always got a project on. He's always got a list of jobs to do and it will never end. I think having that kind of inspiration, I guess, I would look to my dad, you know, work hard and this is what your rewards are. And I think having that, by the time I'd got to sort of 16 or 17, I just really wanted to get into the workforce. And that was kind of where I was at. You know, a lot of friends were considering, and you've got to remember that back all those years ago when I was young, back then, it wasn't just assumed you would go to university. It was a real privilege. I think nowadays it's a bit different and there's a lot more opportunity to go to university and do different courses. But in those days, it was pretty much academic. So if I'd have wanted to be a vet, I'd have gone to uni. But I didn't have that kind of ambition at all. I wanted to go into work and I wanted to earn money and I wanted to be independent. And that was the thrust for me. And that kind of, I think because my dad was self-starting, and my dad, you know, his education was not great. And I think probably back in the day, you would have said, oh, he's got not learning difficulties, but certainly dyslexia, but it was never diagnosed. It was never picked up. He struggled at school. And he used to go fishing instead of going to school because it was an easier option. And he used to mend motorbikes. And then, of course, that led him into car trading and mending car, you know, and it's just self-started. So I think having that background, it just kind of taught me, actually, I just want to get into the workforce and go and earn some money and be independent and look after myself. And my parents brought up girls, you know, and it's interesting. I was thinking about this the other day, that as I was mending my Hoover and I'd got all the bits out and I'm unscrewing it and putting it all back together. And I thought, yeah, this practicality has come from my dad. So he didn't treat us any differently than he would have done a son. He taught us how to change the tires of cars. He taught us how to, you know, put a fuse in a, you know, put a plug on, mend stuff. And he was just always like practical and useful skills. And I think it's made me really independent and really kind of I just get on with it. Nothing phases me because my dad's always said, well, you can just do that. So we were very much brought up in that kind of, you can just achieve anything. It doesn't really matter what you want to do. Just go ahead and do it. And because my dad had come from quite a, you know, you would imagine it's not easy to get started when you can barely read and write and, you know, get on from that. And for him to do that, it was a huge moment for me to say, I just want to get out there and go and work and earn a living. So yeah.
That's cool. Because I think it's difficult for kids these days, isn't it? Like to think, what do you want to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah.
You don't even know who you are as a person, never mind like what you're going to be doing in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years.
Exactly.
It's difficult, and obviously you've changed careers and stuff like that.
Loads of times.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I think it's cool when you said you don't know what you want to do, you know where you want to be, isn't it? And I think that's more important than knowing I want to be this job or I want to do that job. And if you can't do it or something takes you on a different path, then just go with the flow.
And you're quite right. There is a pressure. I mean, recently my niece, she's just gone to university.
Yes,
I know. Yeah, Jackie was telling me. She's so proud mummy, proud auntie.
You're saying she's enjoying it far too much.
She's really enjoying it. And yes, well, don't get me on that subject for goodness sake. But anyways, I think, do you know what? So I guess now it's. I'm not saying it's easy to go to university, but the breadth of choice is vast. So as I say, back in my, you know, it was like you do something a bit more formalized and a bit more kind of, well, you're going to be an accountant or a solicitor. That's what you're going to do. And I think back in those days, you were very much pigeonholed kind of. So I sort of booked the trend and thought, well, I don't want to do any of that. I'll crack on and see what goes on. But I think, you know, my niece going to uni now, she still doesn't really know the why, and I guess that comes later in life. But I think I always did have. I do know why I'm doing things, because I want to get to this particular point, or I want to have this, or I want to be this. But you know, I think we can pigeonhole people sometimes too much and say, well, you're this. You know, this is you. This is Kay Berry. She's a business owner, and that's all she's ever going to be known for. But there's a lot you can. And I don't think you should be pushed into one area. You can do whatever you want to do, and particularly for young people now, the world is moving so fast, and it's astonishing. You look at artificial intelligence and you think, well, some of these jobs might not even exist by the time you finish your uni degree. Slightly alarming. And so you have to respond and act quite quickly. So I think it's very difficult to say, oh, yes, I want to be this, unless you really set on that, that particular discipline. I think you should just keep your options open. And I also think that the pressure that's put on young people to, do well at exams and do this, it's not the be all and end all. Kids out there, I'm going to tell you, I did well enough at school, and I applied myself because that's who I am. So if I like a challenge, and if somebody says, oh, you need to pass and get these A levels, then that's what I did. I got them, but I'm not academic. It wasn't like easy. I slogged at it. I worked at it. I put, sort of methods in place to get myself past my exams, which is kind of how I knew I didn't want to go to uni, because I thought that is just not for me. I'd rather slog at it and get paid for it. For me, that was a better option. But I think there's a lot of pressure on kids to get good grades and to go to uni, and then what you're going to do? You come out of uni and you think, I still haven't got any ideas.
No practical skills or anything.
No. And touching on practical skills, because I was taught stuff. I was taught useful stuff by my dad predominantly, but because I was interested and I asked a lot of questions and found out about stuff, and I just had this kind of, well, I'll just do it. I can do this. It's no, whatever it is, I'll work it out. And now it's easy because you can Google everything. I mean, we had books back in the day, and it was great. You looked at, I can do it. I used to have a DIY book. It was about this, and I'd be like, how do I actually plumb in a toilet? Yes, easy, not a problem. But I think, where was I going with this train of thought? I've lost my train of thought. But I think just, I think you shouldn't be pigeonholed into sort of saying, well, that's what I want to do, and that's who I am, and that's who I become. Mm-hmm. I think you should be open to trying lots and lots of different things. And if you don't know what you want to do, then you'll work it out. Yeah, just give it a try.
I think even just try something. If you don't like it, at least you don't like doing that thing, and then you think, I'll try something different.
Yeah,
because everyone's on their own different timeline, aren't they? There's no thing, right, by 21 you need to be doing this, or 25 you need to be doing that, by 40 you need to be here, by 70 you need to be doing that.
Yeah,
just, I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I've never known what I should be doing, but I think for me, what's important is knowing the person that you want to be, and also knowing where you want to be. So, I want to be there. I'm here now. Right. Let's work out steps to do it. It doesn't have to always be that traditional route. And I think that's really important.
I think it's important, like you said there, about the steps. I think a lot of people maybe like my age would think, oh, right, I need to be there. Why am I not there tomorrow? And they don't either work it back or think, what's the next step after that? Because if you're trying to go 0 to 100 in one day, that's harder. You're trying to get to the bottom of the top of the ladder in one go.
Yeah.
Very, very difficult. But if you think, I'll take it 1% each day, or take it one step at a time, it's a lot more manageable. And you will eventually get there. It's just time. But nobody's got any patience these days.
And I mean, I don't know, you'll answer this better than me, but do you think social media has got a lot to do with that? Because you do see... So you see the success stories, don't you? I mean, nobody's going to put off that it's always marvellous. My life is marvellous. It's wonderful. I'm doing this. Look at me. I'm on a speedboat. Look at me. I'm in a hot class. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on younger people to be that person. And that isn't reality. And I think I can see that that's not reality. And anybody sane can see that. But then sometimes you get sucked into that, don't you? And I think, as a younger person, it's all about, oh, look at this. But it's the hard work that goes behind it.
Yeah. I see it all the time. I think it's different for me because I work in it every day and I can kind of remove myself from it. But I do see people posting on Instagram how happy their life is, how they're going there, going that, they're getting married, getting engaged, they're having a dog, they've got a house. And then behind closed doors, it's not all sunshine and roses. Yeah. Or if you see somebody posting on Instagram, all holiday pictures, it's you're not on holiday all the time.
No.
You're not having a great day every day. And it's just... You're trying to impress people that you don't even know or don't even care about. And it's if you just take about the situation and think, who are my small amount of friends and family that I actually care about? Am I a good person to them? Am I, like you say, the person that I want to be? Just focus on that rather than what the perception is to people that aren't really asked.
Yeah.
But that's my opinion anyway. Yeah. So what was the first job?
The very first job was very glamorously working in a shoe shop. I was 14 at the time. So the ambition to go out and earn money came a bit earlier than that, because at 14 I was begging, can I please get a job? And again, it's quite commonplace now, you know. I mean, I don't think there's one person in Carlisle that's been a waiter or, you know, worked in a hotel or something like that. But in my day, it wasn't as commonplace. So, and I really, really wanted to go to work. So I got a Saturday job, and it was hugely well paid. I got £6 for the whole Saturday. And I used to work really, really hard, and it was awful. I hated every second of it. What? People's feet were involved. So I liked the job, and I liked the, you know, and it's quite grown up, isn't it? And, you know, apart from the fact that my poor mother had to drop me off and pick me up, and as you do, you know, so there's a facilitation going on. But yeah, it wasn't the job for me. But I think what it does for you is really focuses where you don't want to.
Yeah, like I was saying.
Yes. Okay.
I don't want to do that.
This,
do something else.
It's really not for me. People's feet, no disrespect, but some of them are better than others, and let's leave that one there. So that was the very first job, and I did that for probably a summer. I can't even remember how long. And then my next job, so that was £6 for the full day, and it was real slavery. It really was. When I look back, I was had there. But anyway, but my next job was, so it came about because my best friend at school, her boyfriend, very complicated story, her boyfriend, his parents had a bed and breakfast, and it was the old fashioned, you know, it's on 3 floors. It's in Black. I'm a Blackpool girl, so, you know, everybody's worked in a B&B in Blackpool. That's just what you do. Part of a curriculum, I think, somewhere. Yeah. So the boyfriend's parents, and she got a job, and she got £1 an hour. And she did this job until her and her boyfriend wanted to go on holiday. And so obviously, quite rightly, his mum and dad said, well, you can't go on holiday because you're my help, you know, in the hotel. So you need to find somebody that will cover for you. So, because I was her friend, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'd like to do that, earn some money and have, you know, a bit of kind of me time. So I covered for her, and then I covered for her so well that she actually got the sack, and I got paid £1.10 an hour.
Oh, God, no way. You mugged it right off there.
Yeah. So, and I didn't do it on purpose. And we did remain friends. I think it was maybe a point. Yeah, no, she didn't hate me forever and sends me like hate mail now. It doesn't have it. But yeah, it was just hilarious because like, and I thought, oh, well, you've got to handle that with her because I'm not dealing with that. So yeah, so ironically, my training in housekeeping and cleaning and all of that came very, very early. So I would have been about 16, I think. And I did that for quite a long time, a good couple of years, until I actually really had to knuckle down and get a real job. And they actually were quite like upset when I said I can't do it. I'm a grown woman. I need to probably get more than a Saturday job, you know. But it was great fun. And I think anything that puts you in front of people and learning how to deal with people. So yeah, I mean, you know, I would always say to any person, you know, go and work in a front-facing, you know, customer-facing situation. Go and work in a cafe or what have you, because people not everybody is how you expect them to be. Not everybody treats you nicely, and I think it gives you a little bit of you know, you're building your resilience. It's my favourite word, resilience. I'm impressed that I've not said it until now, because normally it's my first word out of my mouth. But it gives you that resilience to deal with people. So some people are really grumpy, some people are just difficult, some people you can't please, some people are amazing, and but at such an early age, that gave me a really good kind of, you know, grounding, and also it's a heck of an education being in a bed and breakfast accommodation where people are staying over. I'm going to leave it there, but you get a really good in-depth education on certain things.
Yeah.
Things that are left in rooms, and don't put it to your imagination, Adam.
That can be a different podcast. Yeah.
That's for another day. I'm not going to take that any further, but yeah. So it was a fun job, and that was kind of where I went from there. And then beyond that, I did have to knuckle down, and by which time I decided. So my last year of school was spent with my pen writing letters, and I hand wrote the letters, and I wrote hundreds to various different employers asking for a training program. And fortunately in those days you didn't have graduate training programs, but essentially that's what it would be nowadays. And long story short, I was offered several different jobs, but I took the one with Sainsbury's. It was a really, really good training program. At that time, it was either kind of a supermarket or Marks and Spencer. That was always the best one. And I took the job with Sainsbury's, and I was just over the moon, and I went onto their training management program. So kind of just went in at a nice level for me. I was like, oh, I'm a manager. And I can remember vividly. And again, you're making me think about these things actually. I'm just, because, well, but you know, you just think, what have I learned from this? So I was so chuffed because I'm a manager and, get me, you know, I've gone in a management. And you got given, you know, and when I look back, fairly hideous, but in those days, it was a brown suit and that denoted that you were a manager and you had a badge with your name on it. And the rest of the staff had it was like an orange and brown. It was a bit 70s, but anyway, they've moved on now, but it was like a tabard that you wore as a staff member and the managers had, you know, and that denoted you as a person in charge. And I went in first day and my manager said to me, well, you can take off that uniform and put on this tabard because you aren't a manager yet, love. And
no.
And now I look back, like at the time I was slightly peeved, as you can imagine, because I thought, but this is what I want, job of my life. But I can see where he came from. And do you know what? I learned such a lot from him because he was like, oh, you're not there yet, love. But so that kind of made me a bit, right, I'll show you, pal, you know. Yeah. But there was a program to go through and it usually took you 2 years and I did it in 18 months. Because again, if I'm given a task, I'll just go at it. I'll work at it. I'll really put my mind to it. And it was one of the best things that he could have done. So I think probably about 3 months in, I was allowed to put the suit on. And then it was like, now we're in business, you know. And then I did it in 18 months and it was great because there was like this 2-year slot. There was a 6 months gap from I finished my training and you get a diploma at the end of it in grocery management and all signed off. And that, now what do you do? So I actually went on store openings, which was just the best fun. It was just brilliant, but it gave me a lot of experience. So within that 2 years, I came out the other end very accomplished in the whole like supermarket, basically running a supermarket. So yeah, and then I got my first posting, which was at Burnley. So I went out. I spent some time in Burnley. Yes,
Burnley, like there's not much going on there.
Wet. My area manager, I can remember getting my post in Weldon K, you know, and you can wear your suit now, and that's marvellous. We're going to send you to Burnley, and I went Burnley. And he went, yeah. He said, take a brolly. It's always raining there. And as I drove on day one, it was drizzling down. And I thought, oh, he's right. Yeah. And I think I was at Burnley for a good year and I don't think it stopped raining in the entire time.
No.
Yeah. And we were adjacent to the Claret and Blues football. And I'm not a football person, but you had to be in Burnley because the car park was literally, the football stadium was like at the end of the car park. So it was an interesting time, but it was great. It was a first posting and I absolutely loved it.
You must have learned a lot about yourself then, do you reckon?
Yeah. So still quite young. I mean, I would have been like 20 at the time when I finished my training and went to Burnley. And again, I think the world has changed. So, you know, we were talking a bit earlier, like my son went off and you were off at university and you go and live somewhere else. And you don't think about it now because the world is a smaller place. But I think for a young woman to go, and I'd gone from a relatively small store because I trained at a local store in Blackpool. And then when I went to Burnley, it was a huge store by comparison. And I'm there on my own. And I got given my first department was running the night shift. So replenishment, you know, again, different days because supermarkets are open 24 hours. So they auto replenish now. But in those days, they would shut at a certain time of the evening. And then the night replenishment staff would come in and I was in charge of that and making sure, and it's a real high pressure job. It was great. I loved it because you're just running around with trolleys and, you know, it was a real high pressure and it was a good first one. But you sort of, you know, to be put in that position. And then I was in charge of this store and then I was locking this store up on my own. And when I look back, I think, crikey, you put yourself in a bit of a vulnerable position there, love, you know, but I guess
it's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot of responsibility, but I think again, it didn't occur to me at the time, and there weren't many female managers, and you know, it was very male dominated. But I was really fortunate. I've had some great managers when I've been employed. I think I've had some very inspirational and very supportive male managers, and it's really kind of just reinforced that you can do anything and you don't need to be, you know, any different from anybody else, and you can compete in an open market. So but it did, you know, sometimes I sort of had to, right, okay, I can do this, you know, but you just have to make yourself do it.
Yeah, and just get on with it.
Yeah, totally.
What was after Burnley then?
After Burnley, so I decided that being a supermarket manager was not for me. And do you know what it was? I think when I consider this, I'd really had to apply myself at school to get my A-levels. I'd really applied myself to get through my management training. And it's all very disciplined and it was very structured and it was very hard work. And I think I was just ready for a bit of a blowout, to be honest. So I went into sales.
Oh, nice.
And this is how I could talk and talk and talk, because I think that was kind of where it was nurtured. But so I took a number. I mean, I'm not going to go through them all, but I took a number of sales jobs. So including selling photocopies and fax machines. And I can tell you what a fax machine is if you're not aware, because I know nowadays we don't have things like that. And it was hilarious. And it was one of the funniest jobs that I've ever done, because you literally had to demonstrate the items. So I'm looking photocopies about and looking fax machines about and driving all over and setting them up in and if you never work with children or machinery or anything like that, because
everything goes wrong.
Everything, I mean, you plug it, off we go, but it just rarely works. And when you're selling a fax, I mean, it's very old school. It's very old technology now when I look back, but when you're selling a fax machine and so the idea is I'm going to send a message to the office and they'll send it, and you send this off and you're thinking, please, and it's hours, and then you have to phone up and it's just so I didn't do that for very long, but it was great fun. It was absolutely great fun. And yeah, ironically enough, that was in Burnley as well, for a big company, like office equipment, so it was great. And then I sold insurance, I sold, gosh, what else did I do? All sorts of things. Yeah, it was just fun times. And I think I really needed to just have that kind of, you work for yourself, you're a self-employed salesperson. And again, that being serious, that kind of does teach you. I think once you haven't got that, I'm going to get a salary, and it's actually, I've got to get out of bed, and yeah, it's not a very nice day, and it's a difficult client, but you have to go and you have to make that sale because you don't get paid. And that was, I think, the first time when I thought, do you know what, I love that idea, but that's really difficult and you've got to be very disciplined. So I sort of not wanted the discipline, wanted the blowout, but then thought, actually, if you work for yourself, you've got to be even more disciplined, really.
You do, yeah.
I mean, I probably didn't work that out until I was actually in the thick of it, and thought, yeah, actually, that's quite hard work. But if it was easy, we'd all be doing it, wouldn't we? So you kind of learn at that stage. I loved it, but it teaches you, I think, an inner kind of, you've got to rely on yourself, and you've absolutely got to get out of bed, even if you don't feel like it or you're not in the right mood for it. You've got to get your mindset right and go ahead and do that job. So that lesson came quite early in my life, which was great. You look back now and you think, and it's funny because I've done lots of different things, and when you look back, you think, doing that just gave me that skill. And actually, that kick in the face was that. And then that person giving me a kind word really spurred me on to do the next thing. So it's interesting when you think what builds a person, all of these experiences, which goes back to the original point of you should try everything, because you just don't know what you're going to take from it. You learn something. Every day I learn something, even today, you learn different things and you take it. Yeah, I've learned about podcasts. Yeah, but yeah, gosh, I'm and I did say I was clumsy as well. So yeah, but I think it's important to just try everything and see what's.
That's one thing I wish I learned is like proper sales training.
Yeah,
that's one thing I've never done. Because I think, say, when I try and sell stuff, I'm too like chilled out and relaxed. I'm just like, oh yeah, just like is what it is or whatever, and that kind of thing. The only sales thing I've probably done is at uni with my events company, knocking on doors, trying to sell tickets to uni students. Yeah. That is sales though, isn't it? You know what I mean?
And I think we're all salespeople. I mean, you start when you're a kid because you sort of, you're selling the idea, well, I need that sweetie. I want that sweetie.
I sell sweets at school.
Yeah. Yeah. It just, it starts when you're a kid, and we're all salespeople. But I think, if you're going out selling, for me in sales, it's not so much about the formal training. It's about people. We were talking earlier about, you listen to people, you learn to just feed off them. And it's more about understanding people. And I think the more that you do in terms of sales and being with different people, the more skills you get. So it's not so much the formal, this is how you close a deal. And there is formal training, of course there is, but it's not that. It's about reading people, and I don't think there's anything wrong. I'm just bubbly and enthusiastic all day long, and I can wear people down. I think that's all right. I'll buy it, whatever, just get out of the door. But that isn't a technique I would recommend to anybody. Please don't repeat that. That's not good. Yeah, just wear them down, get them by the headlock. Which I do at all, of course. I'm very professional, but yeah, I think it's about reading people, and I think that just comes with experience, and it just comes with, whatever you do in your life. And it's not even sales, is it? It's just about reading people and having a rapport and building that relationship with people. And I think that's that, if you can get that lesson early in life, then that's great. It is about.
Yeah, because I've done podcasts with like car industry people, and when they've worked for like manufacturers or dealerships or whatever, they've had like a regimented like script and sales process.
Yes. Yeah.
And for me, I just think it's important to listen and ask the right questions, because they obviously want or need the thing. You just need to point them in the right direction, understand why they want or need that thing, and then give them the solution and say, this is to solve your problem.
Yeah.
And then if you want it, great. If not, whatever, you know what I mean?
It is. It's about listening and understanding what people's needs are, and not trying to sell them something that you think they want. It's like, what do you want? How, if you're selling a service, how do you want that service to look? How, what is it that we can do for you that will actually enhance your life and make it, and give you value for money? And it's about listening to their, well, yes, you don't want that. You have it my way. No, it's about what they want, because they're the client, they're the customer. And it's really important to remember.
Yeah. So what was next after sales?
What was next after sales? So then my sensible head kicked in. I had to really kind of knuckle down. So I actually, quite surprisingly, I went back into employment and I went into the civil service.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was able to go in as, it was termed executive officer at that time. So again, sort of a management grade. But this time I actually had skills as a manager. So it was a bit more legitimate. I didn't just have a suit and thought I was it. So that was quite good. And so do you know what? And I think there's a perception about civil service and about kind of the job. And I've always been like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll have a go. So I progressed really well. I mean, a lot of people that, they go and they're there for 100 years and it's great and it's a pension. Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with that. You need those sort of people because you rely on them and that's what keeps the team together. But I was very much a bit maverick, really, I guess. And I just, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll go for that. So because I did, and because I went on secondment and I did various different jobs, I progressed very, very quickly. So I actually had a 15-year, I'm very old. I know I said I was 50, I'm 95 really. Because when I'm relaying this, it sounds like I've been around forever. I've had 45 different jobs.
Time just flies, doesn't it?
It flies. I had a 15-year career, but of course, during that time, I mean, there is a point where you think, actually, where do I want to be? I actually want to get a mortgage. I actually want to, so.
Grown-up stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really grown-up stuff. So just harking back to the Sainsbury's days, Sainsbury's was actually, rather than £1 an hour, it was in those days relatively well paid, and it was a salaried position. And I can remember my dad's been very influential, but my dad's always had property. Any spare cash, and back in the day when you could buy a terrace house for like 500 quid or something, he bought terrace houses. Yeah, I did. I wish those days. That same terrace house would be like, 150 grand now. But he always accumulated property, and his thing was put it in bricks and mortar. So when I got my first job, which was salaried at Sainsbury's, my dad said to me, right, invest some money. So I actually had a mortgage at the age of 18 or whenever it was. And I invested in a property that my dad then subsequently developed and did up. And then fast forward, when I wanted to buy a home for myself, so I rented and just had a mortgage on another property. But when I wanted to have my own home, we sold that property, and the money from that just gave me the lump sum to get less of a mortgage. And then you're up and away, aren't you? And then it's just like eat, sleep, repeat, because that's what I've actually done all my life. So I've always had an investment property and a home to live in. So I think by the time I went to the civil service, that was where I want a home to live in, and I want, and obviously that's, you just needed to have a more secure, but being in sales is great, but you can earn £1 one week and then 500 quid the next, and it's not great in terms of borrowing. So I had to do the kind of sensible option, and it was the right option. And it gave me I had such a great career, and I did lots of different things. I worked in fraud. I went down to Whitehall and worked, in like Downing Street, and honestly, fantastic times. But I think by the time I'd come to the end of it, and in the middle of all that, I had a child, and, so I kind of had to be, that's the sort, you've got to be fairly sensible and kind of, be responsible at a certain point. Although, Henry might argue that. And I know he's probably told you things, so we're just going to skirt over that bit. But I think, there's a time in your life when it's appropriate and it's right and it fits, that you do something a little bit more sensible. And it was great. Do you know what? And because I just said, yes, I'll give that a go. And all the horrible jobs that nobody wanted to do, I just went and did them. I worked with a brilliant team, again, another very inspirational lady who I worked with. And we ran we ran a team without giving any away, because obviously I've signed the Official Secrets Act and all that. But without giving anything away, we ran a team to look at benefit fraud. And it was really a progressive thing at the time, because I don't think anybody had realised that how fraudulent benefit claimants could be. So now it's all, we're all very well versed with it. But so we started that first team, and we were analysing data from these, sort of fraudulent claims and things like that. And it was really groundbreaking. And I just loved working with my team, and it was run by the most splendid woman. She was insane at times. She she was very eccentric. She used to arrive in a big flurry of a cloak and hat and everything. And I believe I've turned into her quite recently.
There's your hat, and you go.
It's in there. I love a hat. I will be seen wearing hats, but it's almost cold enough for a hat now.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I just think I probably got that from her. But she was splendid because she had, again, and she was, you know, that's an unpopular job when you're in fraud and you're trying to investigate people. You're not Mrs. Popular, and she just breezed through it, and she gave us such inspiration. So I had a great time in the civil service, and 15 years went like that. And then, you know, by the end of that, I just thought, I'm ready now. Obviously, Henry was old enough. I mean, you know, when I say old enough, I've always taught him to be very independent. So at the age of 2, I told him how to use the toaster. And then if anything happened to me, he wouldn't starve. And he's definitely not starved, has he?
No, definitely not.
He's a foodie like me. So he's definitely not
He
starved.
loves it.
He does, yeah. So, but I think by the time Henry was old enough and circumstances were right, I was then ready to, okay, I've had all this experience. What am I where's my next, you know, where do I want to be next? And that was going into business for myself.
So how did that come about then? So obviously you just thought, I want to go into business, but
Yeah.
what do you do? Like if somebody thinks I want to set up a business or...
So I think my thoughts came from what I actually wanted to do was to open a restaurant.
Okay. Like
My love of food.
Yeah,
I love of food, and I like people, and I just thought that's the way I want to go. But I felt, you know, I've had a 15-year career in the civil service, and then I want to open a restaurant. That's quite a big jump. You know, I'm not a professional chef. I don't really know how to run a business, so maybe that's a bit too far. So I started to look at franchising, and you know, I'm a great believer in the universe will provide, you know, so if you put it out there, what I want is this, I just know that will be given back to me. The universe will provide that to me. So I think at that moment in time, although I'd sort of said I want to run a restaurant, I pulled back and sort of, what else is there? Is there a franchise? And at the time, it was very shortly after Costa had decided that they would franchise. So I picked up a Costa Coffee franchise, and I was probably about I think I was the 4th franchisee. Yeah. So I was, and
I remember you timed it perfectly.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
I mean, top tip on franchising, get in at the beginning, because that is, you know, and no disrespect to Costa, but I'm sure the powers that be would agree. We all made it up at the time because I was new to franchising. They were new to franchising. And so I think we just sort of made it up as we went along. And it was a bit of a kind of let's suck it and see for Costa. Because obviously, you know, Whitbread owned, huge organisation, but what they wanted more than anything, Costa had a presence, but of course Starbucks was the big player, and Costa had that, you know, this is where we want to be. We want to be ahead of ourselves. So the Costa game plan was to get as much coverage as possible, but they didn't have obviously the investment capital to do that. So bringing franchisees in was the best way to do it, and you could cover areas that you wouldn't necessarily cover. So, I look back now and I go, yeah, another pivotal moment, because as I was looking and thinking, maybe not a restaurant, but I could, you know, something hospitality, because I've always had hospitality, worked in, you know, like kind of that sector. And I just thought, yeah, but that would be great, a franchise. So kind of just went for it, really.
Timing though, isn't
it?
I mean,
Timing. And being open to it and sort of thinking, actually, that's really interesting. So I can remember going down, and it is funny because I can remember going down to so they had to be interviewed. Yes. I had to go to the Tickle Charity in Preston.
Bit more intimidating than this, though.
Yeah. Well, no, it was quite proper. Yeah. So I sort of toddled off in my own kind of unique way, you know, and I toddled off to this interview, and it was a guy that was tasked by Costa to recruit franchisees. So there was all sorts of questions that he asked me, you know, like my background and things like that. Okay, fine. And then I got through that hurdle, and then I had to go down to London to Costa HQ. And I'd got a bit of a plan in my mind. You know, I've never written at this stage. And I love writing, so I'd sort of got a bit of a plan in my head, but it wasn't a formal business plan as you would know it now. I mean, it wasn't polished. And I went down, and I've got a suitcase because I thought a briefcase. I thought
businesswoman.
That's what. And I wore a suit, and it wasn't brown this time; it was a grey suit. Yeah, I know. I've moved on from the brown now. But, you know, so I'd gone down sort of semi-well prepared, and I guess I was very well prepared, because what I'd had the foresight to do, I was looking to have the whole of Cumbria as my territory, which is an ambitious move. But I thought, you know, if you're going to do this, do it properly, just go for it. And I'd got a map that you put on your wall, and I dotted sort of where I would target, you know, I would put obviously Workington, Whitehead, you know, and Keswick. And so I put on my preferential towns, and I'd just stuffed it in my briefcase, and that was it. And I got to and it was a panel then, you know, and you were properly cross-examined, and what you're going to do about this, and where's your target areas. And because, you know, obviously it's a lot of money to to spend to get into the franchise. It's huge amounts of money, let me tell you. But also they want to know that they're going to get a return on their investment in you by giving you all the off the shelf. This is how you run a Costa coffee. And so I'd gone down sort of semi-prepared, and then I was a bit on my back foot because they were all from the south of England, and bear in mind that I'm a northern girl and I'm very familiar with up here. And they were kind of like, well, where is Keswick? And like this, on the map, I'd put something on for Bowness, which eventually became the flagship store and just broke all records. But I'd put it on the map as Bowness, and all they had, in their defence, was the data for population and, there's only 4 people that live in Bowness. Why on earth would you want to open an enormous great big Costa? And I said, well, yes, but. And so anyway, out came the map, and this map was huge because I'd had it on my wall, and I thought, I'll just take that with me on, as I go on the train. And I got this map out, and all 3 of them, and I'm sort of leaning across the desk, and I'm kind of saying, well, this is Keswick and this is Bowness. And actually what you don't know, it's in the heart of the Lake District. And then a little light bulb went on, and they went, Lake District, that will have people going there then.
Yeah.
And you could almost see them kind of, she's not as insane as she looks. And so long story short, obviously I got accepted onto the elite board of 3 other people and me. And it went from there. And it was just, so, the deal was that you sign up for 5 years and you do a minimum of 5 stores. And so 10 years and 10 stores later, that was the end of that chapter. But hugely successful, hugely challenging. I mean, just learned so much from it. And that absolutely, so I love franchising because it just, you hit the ground running. And I think for me as a business person, I'm a bit of a fire starter. So I love the startup. I love the build. I love the let's create something. I like recruiting a team, all of that. Once it's steady state, what am I doing next? I'm a bit fickle. Yeah. But do you know what? It's wonderful to create it. And then, so the first store was created, and then the second 2 stores were literally, so first store was Fleetwood, and then Whitehaven, Workington came literally a week apart. And it was 2 weeks before Christmas. I was insane. And I was exhausted, and it was just ridiculous. So, but it came very quickly. And then it's about finding sites, and it's about shop fitting and all that sort of thing. I loved all of that. And then once it's up and running, great, it's a Costa. Where's the next one going to be? And I did that for 10 years, and it was just awesome. And it was a phenomenal business to be involved with, and to see the Costa side of it grow and change as a business. And from what it was then to what it is now,
maybe
it's utterly, yeah. And we're a part of that. It's absolutely, well, I loved every second of it. And, some days, honestly, it was a real challenge because at one point I had 150 staff, and that's no mean feat to try and keep tabs on them.
Aww.
But it was just, I learned so much, and that I've carried that with me. I'm thankful that I got that opportunity, and it was just brilliant.
So at the end of the 10 years at Costa, what was the mind frame then? What were you thinking? What was next for you? So with Costa, I said to, and again, I'm exit strategy always for me. I think always when you're going into a business, you should be thinking, where am I going and when am I getting out? And I know that sounds a bit odd, really, but I think if you don't know what direction you're sailing in, that can be very dangerous because you can go off at all different tangents. You're coasting here.
You're just calling in every little port, and you don't really know what you're doing, and you'll never make it to Cos or whatever. So I think I'd said to myself, it's 10 years or it's 10 stores, and actually very neatly 10 stores in 10 years. So it was time to sell. Yeah, it was time to sell. So I sold that business, and that was great. And then I had a couple of years where I thought, I'm going to retire. I'm going to just lie on a beach and do nothing and eat chocolate all day. And, didn't suit me, interestingly enough.
How long did that last?
Well, I had a good 18 months at it. Yeah. And then I just thought, you know what? I need something in my life. I would always say, if anybody is in the position where they're going to sell a business, and I've given this advice before, take 6 months to 12 months out. So when you sell, when you move on, whichever way you exit, don't make any decisions for 6 to 12 months because you actually, you don't appreciate, I think. And, I deal with stress quite well, I think. And there's not a lot that overfaces me, but I think I have a very naturally high tolerance to stress. What you don't realise is when all of that stress, and Costa wasn't a stress, but it was something to manage. And when it's taken away from you, you don't realise actually just come down to planet Earth. You're up there in the solar system. And I think it takes 6 to 12 months realistically before you actually clear your mind, and then you can make decisions. The knee-jerk reaction is, oh, I've sold my business, what am I going to do next? And I didn't do that, and I did take time out, and I had a wonderful, travelled and did things that I would never thought I would get to do. So again, hugely thankful and just had the most wonderful time. But once I'd come down to planet Earth, I realised that it's not enough. I needed to have something else to challenge me and just kind of get my teeth into, really. Yeah. So there was a couple of projects which I'm not going to go into, and do you know what? Again, you learn with everything. There were a couple of things that I did that went into property, and that it just didn't work out for me. It's not my thing. It's not kind of what I wanted to be. So again, tick that. I've tried that. That's not for me. Yeah. There was sort of various ideas, and then just when I was sort of deciding, right, where do I want to do, what do I want to do and where do I want to go? COVID hit, marvellous. Yeah. I mean, we can't have a podcast without mentioning that word. And so we all stopped, didn't we? And that was just kind of, well, okay, I don't know what I want to do, but I've got real chance now to formulate some great ideas. So during COVID, and it was, I don't mean to be like disrespectful to anybody, but I had a really lovely time because it's family time. And
Henry came back, didn't he?
Henry came back. Do you know what? He'd gone, you bring your child up to be independent and self-sufficient, go out into the world. And he did. And I was like, could you come back, please? Because he went round the world on a cruise ship. So it kind of, I wasn't expecting that. I thought he might move to the next village or something. It didn't really occur that he wasn't actually in the same continent even. So, but I mean, that aside, but he came home, obviously, because cruise ships kind of weren't the thing when COVID. And he was home for a good 9 months. And it's interesting that you have your son, and he goes away as a young man, and he came back as a complete rounded human being that had been travelled, and it was just lovely. It was the best time of my life, and I just absolutely adored it. But I also adored it for the business side, that I had opportunity to just take a bit of a step back and go, what do I really want to do? And at that point I formulated, because lots of people, I've looked friends in London, and they were saying, we're getting out of London, we're buying a house in the country, or we're having a second home, a lot of which were in the Lake District. And I went, they're going to need to be serviced. They're going to need to have like a concierge service or something like that. So the seed was sown, and then I thought, I'll just set up a business, and I'll do, I'll do housekeeping, I'll do, changeover cleans, I'll do whatever is required and manage the property and look after it for absolutely, and I had this great idea in my head. And then I thought, I really like franchising. I wonder if anything fits that bill. And again, things get delivered to you, you manifest it, you think about it, you write it on your goals and all. That's what I'd like to do. And then the next thing, I'm looking at an advert for Bright Beautiful, and I'm going down to speak to them, and it's all like, here we go again. She's off on another one. And I took a franchise with Bright Beautiful. They were very kind and allowed me to, join them. And what an amazing organisation. So, and whilst it wasn't exactly what I had in mind, I'm definitely moulding that business into where I want it to be now. So it's just off we go again. It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just like timing again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you say, just being in the right place at the right time. Maybe what happens isn't meant to be, but then sometimes it is meant to be. And
I know COVID for a lot of people was kind of devastating, and people have lost businesses and lost sort of all sorts of different things. But out of any situation, any appalling situation, there's always a good that comes out of it. And I think a lot of good has come out of COVID, without people really understanding that at the time. And we didn't know if it was going to be 9 minutes, 9 months or 9 years. We didn't have a clue.
3 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was just like, next week it'll all be fine, and we can stop banging our pans in the driveway, and cheering for the NHS.
I'll never forget, I was in Cardiff, and then my dad was like, if it gets locked down, just come back tonight. And it was like the world's going to end. Yeah. It's like, right, I'm coming back tonight, drove up. And then I've been in Carlisle ever since. Yeah. So I'm like, it's crazy. So then how did that first meeting go with Bright Beautiful?
So we
remember the Costa one?
I very much do. Yeah. And the person that I went to speak to, Jo, is now the MD of the company. So she's got a great story to tell as well. We were together yesterday. She's got a great story to tell. And again, and I'm not trying to be the sort of feminist banging the drum but it's interesting who inspires you. So I've been inspired by many different people, male and female, throughout my career, and continue to be so. But sometimes you meet people and you think, this is awesome. This is the tribe that I want to be part of now. She was just really positive, really enthusiastic, had great like ambition for the business. And she wasn't MD at that time. She was head of recruitment. And so, kind of like the guy that had to cross-examine me in Preston. And I can remember meeting Jo vividly and thinking, yeah, it's got me written all over it. And I wasn't really a massive pink person at that time, but she was dressed in, I know, I've moved on. I know, well, I was always purple. So all my companies have been purple, Purple World. And my favourite colour is purple, so there would always be a splash of purple on me. And now I can't avoid it. I've got pink everywhere. And that's I guess that's the power of the brand. I really enjoy being part of a big brand. I think that's what I really like. I like the professionalism. And same with Costa, same with anything that I do. It's got to be done 100% right. And I'm quite a stickler for that. It's the same with the grammar and the pen, isn't it? But I felt with this brand that it was quality. It was going somewhere. It was, a very genuine, we want to be the best cleaning company. We want to be able to deliver a 5-star service. And it sang to me. And I think meeting Jo, and she was so passionate about it and remains so, she was speaking yesterday and we're all just like, this is wonderful. But it's lovely to have that enthusiasm and that positivity. I think you get bogged down in so much the minutiae of day to day. It's lovely to have people around you that are positive and helpful and kind and supportive, and you don't get that in every workplace. So I'm fortunate.
And even your friends, I think.
Yeah.
You don't realise that some, not like toxic in bad ways, but if people are negative, like always complaining and thinking, oh, this or that, or somebody who's like positive mindset thinking, why don't you try this, why don't you do that? Oh, we should be doing this. Yeah. And it's just weird how if you put yourself in different situations, you can completely different mindset, isn't it? Yeah.
It's all about mindset, and it's contagious. I think a positive mindset is contagious. It just, don't get me wrong. We all have days where we think, oh, I'm positive. Really? Especially when you're working with people and teams of people, and, and we have tough days. Don't get me wrong. It's not all plain set. I'm not putting that glossy social media thing on it, but I think it is about, let's flick this around. Let's see the positives in it. Let's see where we can go. Having that vision of where we're going and why we're going. And if we go off a bit off course, it doesn't matter. That's where we're going to. And it is just about that positive attitude. And I thrive on that. I just love it. It's enthusiasm is contagious. It really is. So the minute I walked through the door at Head, well, like I said, I alluded to it earlier, back to Dolly Parton again. But the minute I walked in and saw Dolly, and I thought, oh, that's it. I'm home. Yeah. It's great. This is where I need to. This is where I need to be right now. And don't get me wrong, it's been challenging. We're 2 years in now. I mean, this is the beginning of another journey. And again, it'll be 10 years or whatever happens first, wherever we go. And once again, I've got the whole of Cumbria to go out. So there's a lot, and it's challenging in different ways. And it's really, for me, it's a really good thing because it's just getting, the mind on it again, getting focused, going back to what I do very well, which is building businesses, building and, bringing people, providing jobs locally. That's a really big thing for me. Looking after people, making sure that they've got good terms and conditions, making sure that we're ethical, and all of that is part of the brand. It's wonderful. So yeah, I'm just delighted to be doing that now.
What challenges would you say are different in this franchise to the last one for you?
So, yeah, I guess particularly as the franchise owner, in the Costa setup, obviously you have individual stores, so they're kind of like a self-contained unit. With this job, it's very much hands-on, so you're very close to your team, and I love them all dearly, but sometimes it's too much because there's a lot to running a business, as you know. You've got all your financials, you've got all your just the basic health and safety, making sure everything is the funds, the really fun stuff, the admin. And I think it's quite distracting sometimes to have the staff immediately, you're immediately there and they come in the morning. It's great buzz in this office in the morning, but sometimes we light a joss stick and put on calm music when they've gone. Can't lie, because it's all a bit chaotic. And so that's been a challenge for me because I'm very close to the staff. So whereas before I think the hierarchy was there, but again, it's a relatively new business. We're doing well, but we're growing rapidly. Structures get put in place, and then you start thinking, well, actually, there's another sort of tier in between me and the staff, and then it becomes a bit of a different animal. But that's probably been one of the biggest challenges. I think that the challenge, post-COVID, the world has changed. So the challenge there is you're asking people to spend money on a service. And again, the sales training comes back in then because it's about delivering value for money. And I think, we have such a great product and such a great service and such a great way of delivering it. We're very, very good at what we do. And I have that attitude with it, but it's about getting that message across. And there's a real job of marketing and getting out into the, nobody's heard of Bright and Beautiful before we came along. They will absolutely have heard of us by the time I'm done. But it's about starting that whole thing again. And that's my skill. I love it. I love starting and, going out and networking and spreading the joy, spreading the pink. But it's a challenge. It's constantly thinking, right, where do I go now? Who do I speak to? How do I build the business in that way? And the responsibility of having staff again,
it's a lot of
I can't lie. Once I'd sold Costa, I was like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never having staff. I'm just going to work for myself. I'm just going to be self-sufficient guy. But that's not me. I absolutely love I love having the team. I love the fact that we are providing decent, great jobs for people that live locally. That's very important to me, and good conditions, and they're treated with respect, and we all, I hope we all get along and we have a nice time doing it, because it's hard work.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it is hard work.
You're saying you're obviously 2 years in though.
Yeah.
But you've already been recognised, haven't you?
Yes.
As a franchisee, and you've got a trip coming up. So how was that when you kind of got that recognition, or you found out, or that kind of thing?
Well, I can't lie. I love my name in lights. Can you see all the trophies on that? It's all about me. Can I just say at the start, do you know what? I love having my name in lights. And yesterday we were at a team meeting, and Carlisle was on the board. And then all I can think is, well, why is it at number 9 and why is it not at number 1? So there's my challenge to self. But it's very much a team effort. Anything that we do, I've put the money into it and I've built the business and I've worked, and it's my risk. But I can't do it without my team around me. I've got great support. I mean, it's a shame there's only one place on the plane, because my sister's really mad about that. She's like, what do you mean? It's just you. But I think when the incentive came through, I'd, again, a lot of manifesting, a lot of setting your sights on it. And I'd written on my board, I'm a lover of a whiteboard. I can't lie. There's whiteboards everywhere because it's prompts and I'm visual, and, write me notes, you can see there. And so on the whiteboard, I'd written, who's on the plane? I'm on the plane. And I got a picture of a plane, and it was a pink plane. And it was actually a query from a client, and he said, do you do planes? And I said, send me a picture of the plane. And it was all branded in pink colours. And I was like, yeah, we do planes. We didn't get that. The plane didn't take off. But yeah, but that picture was on my board, and it's like, who's on the plane? We're on the plane, and this is what we're going to do. And I achieved that goal. And so I was just absolutely over the moon when I got the news that it was, we'd done it as a collective effort. And it's lovely to have recognition. It's very important to recognise people and give praise where it's due. I think we're very quick to criticise, oh, you've done that wrong and that's not. But you've got to like give praise where it's due. We worked really hard, and that was with my leadership, but it's come from the team. It's a team effort. I don't know how I'm going to reward them when I'm in Denver having a great time, but it's exciting, isn't it? And you know what? So to go to America, which I see as the absolute epitome of franchising, they are very, very good at it. They have a very good, positive mental attitude. So I'm excited to see how it's done, the other side of, our business. So we have an overarching sort of, there's the equivalent of us in the US. I'm excited to make contacts there. And I just think it's going to be a really positive, really powerful. I mean, I went yesterday to Manchester and I've come back absolutely buzzing today. So I don't know what they're going to be in store when I come back from Nobel. Absolutely beside myself, to calm myself down a bit. But it's lovely, and it's great to be part of an organisation that is willing and able to do that. And, I think that just, to me, it's like you're appreciated, you are rewarded. If you work hard, we all gain, we all profit. And that's what it's about, isn't it? It's a real incentive for me.
No, definitely. That's cool. So what kind of businesses or people do you service in as a business then? If people are listening to this and thinking, oh,
yeah,
can you help me out, kind of thing?
Well, the answer's yes.
Whatever you want.
Whatever. I mean, we go from planes to, yeah. So predominantly we are a housekeeping business. So 5-star housekeeping, cleaning, ironing, laundry, whatever you want in your own home. That's really the bread and butter of the business. And then beyond that, so because of my seed of an idea in COVID, and I wanted to, with the second homes, we do an awful lot of changeover cleans, and we're actually becoming really the go-to business for that in this area. And that's that's a trick in itself, because with a changeover clean, you've got to do it. You've got to do it within the time scale. You've got to have it perfect every time. And it's a real skill, and it takes a lot of organisation, a lot of discipline, and we've got that in the team. So we do a lot of that. We've worked very hard during the summer doing changeovers. And why wouldn't you? This area is absolutely one of the best areas in the UK. People want to visit it all the time. So there's great work to do there. Offices, shops, schools. We have a school on our books, holiday parks. There isn't a lot that I'll say no to be honest. And we can do a lot of one-off cleans. So if if home builders, we work with home builders. When you sort of sign in over your house, there's usually a pre-clean, and then they tend to go back in and put a shelf up, and then there's another clean, and eventually it's get clean, and then the clients move in. So there's pretty much nothing that we won't take on board. I'll consider everything. And, where will this business go? It's just wherever we can take it, really. And it's evolving. We were saying yesterday, it's evolving massively from what you would, you're a cleaning business, yes, but there is a way more to it than that. For some clients, we've packed up because they're moving house, we've unpacked because they've moved into another house. It's lovely when you clean for when they're moving, and when they move around the corner, and then you clean for them. It's brilliant because it's like end to end. We've done decluttering, we've done a lot of tidying, kids' toys, and they go out and ironing and laundry. We have a dedicated laundry in the back, and we do a lot of ironing and laundry, and people just. My slogan is drop your trousers here. So
I haven't been asked just yet.
Not yet. But people can drop off laundry, and it's great because you're on holiday, and you've had your holidays, and you come back and the laundry basket's really high. Yeah, we'll do that for you. We'll take care of it. So pretty much anything, Adam. It can just whatever we'll turn our hand to.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you think's next then? Like you say, you've got loads of plans. What's in the pipeline?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got something in mind.
Yeah. So this is gonna entertain me and keep me occupied for quite some time, I think. And I actually don't know what's next. So this is my focus at the moment. But there will be other things. Always, there is always, And it would be lovely to think that at some point I could, go to Marbella and have a little sort of. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I know. I've just been, but holidays mostly. Yeah, Denver, Marbella. But there's lots in the pipeline. But mostly for this business. We're based here in Carlisle, and we call it the Pink Palace. Obviously, you can tell why. But this is our base. But clearly, with this business, we've got the whole of Cumbria to go at. So, in terms of what we'll do with Bright Beautiful, we'll have hubs, and we'll cover the rest of Cumbria and just basically grow the business that way. So that's going to be quite a challenge to just sort of get satellite hubs and make that work. Which we're first quarter of next year, that's exactly what will happen. So and we'll just onwards keep growing. I don't see that it'll stop growing. That's what excites me so much, and also I think when I came into the business, it's a very different animal now. We've got, Joe as the MD is taking us in a very strong direction. So we're very clear about how far we can go with it. And actually the answer is infinity and beyond. So it's just, back when you were kids playing with
Buzz Lightyear.
Buzz Lightyear. That's in my head, isn't it? It's random stuff that comes out. Yeah. Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond. I just think the business is growing. And people of attitudes have changed towards having somebody do, in COVID, we had time to do everything, didn't we? So you didn't mind doing a bit of cleaning. And then you got to go back to work and get on with it and get on with life. And you think, actually, the one thing I'm going to ditch is the cleaning because I'm really fed up with it. So I think this business is just timed at the right time for that kind of attitude change. And it's lovely. It's just lovely. And we could, I'm not being dramatic, but we do change lives and we do save marriages because people get, the phone will always ring on a Sunday afternoon because somebody's had a row with somebody about doing the washing up and the ironing. And then, hello, I'm here. Yeah. Absolutely. What can I do for you? And you just know that that's what's happened. Somebody's like, right, that's it. I'm getting somebody in. And why not? Why wouldn't you? You work hard. And I think we've grown a new appreciation of spare time and free time and family time, haven't we?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah. The biggest mistakes or biggest regret, I prepped for this, didn't I?
You did.
What do you reckon?
Yeah. So I don't accept that mistakes. Do you know what? Yeah. So
lessons.
So lessons.
Everyone always says that, but it's bad answer for the podcast.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
No, carry on.
No, I think you either win or you learn. That's my attitude. Yeah. So I've made some clangers, horrendous one. And I think that, I'm not going to be specific because there's so many actually, but in business, that's what it's about. And I'm a risk taker. That's what really floats my boat. I like the business because I like the business side of things, because you just don't know what you're going to be faced with. And sometimes you have to make a split second decision. And I like the fact that it relies on me. And don't get me wrong, I don't just go like, okay, guns blazing. I have a whole team that support me. My sister is amazing. Jackie's just brilliant, because anything that I do, I'm like, we're here, let's do this. And she's like, hang on a minute, let's just think about that. But yeah, there's been some corkers. And I think for me, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter where you get into your destination. It doesn't matter what route you take. And sometimes you go down a blind alley. Sometimes you're in a dead end. Sometimes you're in a ditch, and that has actually literally happened to me. My friend drove us into a ditch.
Really?
Do you remember that?
No.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we drove into a ditch. Anyway, that was quite a long time ago. But, you're in the ditch and you're thinking, right, this is not really what I planned. Okay, how do I get out of the ditch? Right, you're out of the ditch. All is well. Let's move on. And I'm able to do that. I don't dwell on things. And I'm able to move on. So yeah, there's been regrets. Yeah, that I can't sing like Celine Dion or something. That's
that's a big one.
They haven't picked me up on any. I think that there's a diva inside that. But in business, I don't regret it. I just think, that was an idiotic thing to do. Don't do it again. Learn from it. I mean, you're an idiot if you do it twice, aren't you? So
that's what I say all the time. Yeah,
definitely. You are. Yeah.
And then, what do you reckon your greatest strength and your greatest weakness is?
Well, resilience. You know what?
It's my
favourite word. I've done very well because people mention it all the time. But I'm just resilient. I really am. You could mow me down with a truck or something, and I'll just bounce back. What now? I think, my greatest strength is my resilience, and whatever is fired at me, I'll find a solution and I'll find a way. And sometimes it's difficult and it's, it does wear you down, but I think mostly because I'm positive and I've got the right mindset and I've got the motivation and the method, it all kind of comes together. And I think I'm really, so into flipping it the other way, I think I'm very impatient, which probably most business owners are, because, I want it done now. And when I say, have you done it? I mean, get it done, and that, so I can probably learn to be a bit more patient, and I'm impatient across the board. So anything, I want it done, and I want it done kind of, it makes it sound awful, doesn't it? But I like things done properly. I'm back to the fountain pen, and it's that. It's hard
to get it done fast and perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, sometimes there's a compromise, and, do you want it done quickly, or do you want it done properly? Well? Yeah, I mean, there's two things. But I think I'm precision, and that kind of irritates me if it's not done as precise as I can do things. So I'm probably quite difficult to work with, and they all hate me, but that's fine.
Slag you off behind your back.
I know, they're all in there going, oh gosh, she's on again. Oh, she's so perfect. No, but it's, so I think I need to work on being a little bit more patient and a little bit more appreciative of people. It's been interesting actually, because we are growing and we've taken on new staff, and Jackie and I work intuitively. We're sisters, for goodness sake. She's my much older sister, and that's we have this all the time, and she says the same of me, and I'll let you decide. You probably know, but
I won't put it out there.
No, don't put it out. But we work intuitively. Do you know what? We've known each other all our lives, and we didn't really realise just how well we work together as a team until you get somebody else in, and and you could be clients file or something, and there's a squiggle, and I'll go, oh yes, that means this, and the poor lady that's coming to help me on admin, she's like, could you explain the squiggle, please? I don't understand. What do you mean you don't? And Jackie and I are looking at, of course it means so and so, but we've really had to work on actually our communication to other people. It's like, because we just, and you kind of know, and then I don't even have to say, is it done? Because Jackie, I've done that, or she'll think, if I'm not here, she'll think the way I will say, and it's actually taught us a few lessons, like just be clear and communicate properly, and don't just assume that, instructions, not assumptions. That's my buzzword at the moment, my buzz phrase at the moment, because I think sometimes you can assume that people know what you mean, and they just don't. And as you grow a business, you've got to remember, Jackie and I have worked it. I mean, Jackie was in the Costa business with me. So she's been, in fact, pretty much we were having this conversation the other day, and she's been with me practically in every job that we've done. The brief period that she moved to London for 10 years, we didn't work together, but pretty much throughout our lives, we've worked together a great deal.
That's so cool, isn't it?
A great deal. So you can't explain, we just work intuitively, and it's brilliant. And it's great for me, because if I do step out the business meetings or Denver, Colorado, I've got somebody, I've just got me, I've cloned myself, and she's hearing this. So it's just wonderful. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any closing thoughts? Anything else?
Closing thoughts. Oh gosh, am I meant to be profound now?
No, anything that you wanted to mention, promote, where can people find you, plug on the website,
okay,
get in contact?
Yeah, of course we'll do the big plug. So we are Bright and Beautiful, clearly. And you can see us all over social media. You can, by all means, visit our website. And yeah, you'll see me in my pink jacket wherever I go. Stop me in Marks and Spencer's, and that has happened.
Really?
So, yes, one brilliant client. We both were wearing our head-to-toe pink suits. We must have had a meeting. Normally, I'm more pink than this. I've toned it a wee bit down. And we were head-to-toe in pink suits, and this lovely lady came running up to, "It's you! Thank goodness, I was about to ring you." We're like, what? We're like,
so
minor
weird.
celebrities. I'm like, oh, this is great. And we signed her up there and then. So she was
Really?
a very good client of ours. So it's wonderful. But yeah, please get in touch if you have any housekeeping needs.
Perfect. Right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment your favourite part. Any questions for Kay, leave in the comment section below. If you listen on Spotify, Apple, leave a 5-star review, and I'll see you next time. Bye, 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 bye.